Kia ora everyone, this here is my review of the LEGO Star Wars set Yavin 4 Rebel Base, which released last year in 2023. Is it Yavin or Yavin? Set number 75365. This here contains 1066 pieces and 12 minifigures, which is pretty good actually, 7 of which are exclusive for the time being. The set here retails for 170 USD. When converted into my country's currency, that should be priced at 280 NZD, and it is in fact 280 NZD. I bought this set for May the 4th this year. My order was entirely set on back order and I only just got the shipment in June. It is now August, let's not pay attention to the dates. The set had a very special clearance offer where I think I got it for somewhere between 200 and 230 or something like that. I want to say 200. I used some points as well, so I managed to get some special offers. I managed to drop the price down a lot more. Basically, I think it made for a really good deal. Before getting started though, there is a quick little backstory on this set. This set is priced the same as the 2023 release Ghost and $10 more than the 2023 release Republic gunship. I vividly remember buying that gunship at the time and really contemplating if the minifigure value there was really worth it or not, when this other set here was only $10 more and contains more than double the amount of figures. Pieces wise, it's pretty close to the gunship. The Ghost does have a few hundred more parts. 12 minifigures in a Star Wars playset of all things is a wild inclusion. It's even more bigger scaled when you look at sets like the Marvel Sanctum Sanctorum, which is 400 NZD, and that set really does skimp out on the minifigure inclusions, especially in comparison to this one. Final quick note, the set was notorious amongst the older community because of an original cancellation many years ago. Revealed in the LEGO Star Wars Visual Dictionary, this image here shows us what an original planned Yavin set was supposed to look like, and despite some obvious flaws here, the build looks really great to me. It feels like a really great homage set to a Kenner toy line, and now, all these years later, we have a Yavin playset. It's similar enough to see the resemblance to me, but it has been drastically downscaled. Let's take a look here. The Yavin 4 playset here actually does have a gimmick that LEGO really want to showcase, and that's the fact that the whole thing can split apart into multiple sections. We have these chunks all separated out here, which means that multiple people can build this thing at once. It's something that's even showcased kinda on the box, a little confusing to me though. And once I realized this, I knew the build would be pretty simplistic for nearly $300, and I think that's where most of the complaints have come from the community. This set at face value doesn't feel like it really warrants that kind of a price point, despite the fact that the piece count does match sets priced the same, and the minifigure count exceeds the regular amount that we're used to. First thing to look at here, in my opinion, the weakest inclusion, it's the tree and the crow's nest, and I think everyone seems to agree. It's fine, it's very simplistic though, and I couldn't help but think about the junior sets while I was building it. We get a lot of new grass pieces here, which I believe were introduced in the Rivendell set that released earlier in the year, so that's pretty neat. There is a play feature here that allows the pole to move up and down. I actually really like the way that it sits up top here. It doesn't actually lock into place or anything, it just sits on the ridge there. It's pretty cool to see, and finally, it just feels pretty cool to actually have this thing in a official LEGO set, because it's been a good few years now since the theme existed. And now as for the temple itself, I'm going to be brutally honest here, I really dig this thing from its exterior design. I really loved all of the recent Star Wars video games despite the many issues we all collectively have with them, but the Yavin maps in the Battlefront and Skywalker Saga games are very special for me. Having this now as a physical LEGO set feels pretty good. I just love the temple colors here used for ancient ruins. I'm a sucker for this kind of aesthetic for a LEGO set. The greens used throughout too for different plant life just make it look a bit better overall. Leaves and seaweed and big bush parts. The entranceway is huge because it's able to fit the Y-wing build, more on that later, and the walls are even slightly different on both sides to make a really nice asymmetric style. There's more plant life located on this side as well. Now if you wanted to, the walls can be moved here for some reason. I guess it makes play easier, and it's gimmicks like this that really make it feel like an homage set to the Kenner brand of toys from the 80s. It's not necessarily for display. The top of the temple is pretty cool though. These walls are all connected on hinges and they're secured in place by locking in together. And there's some nice plant life here as well. Spinning the set around though, this is where it's hard to excuse the simplicity and price point. This really does feel like a children's toy. Ignore the fact that it is a LEGO set aimed at 8-year-olds, it's fine. It's just not priced as a set aimed at 8-year-olds, but boy does it make you feel like an 8-year-old when you're building this interior space. There's a couple of cool features in here, I just wish it was a bit more. For starters, our lower floors here are just standing rooms with some ladders for reaching those second levels. Inside the first floor here we have a sticker of a Y-wing that shows us that the engine is busted and in desperate need for repairs. The back of the wall here also features a blaster kept there for storage. The other floor features 2 cabinets. Inside we have a thermal detonator and maybe some kind of fuel for the Y-wing. It's the same build that the designers have used in other Star Wars sets to represent fuel, so I don't know. The upstairs area is where it gets a bit more interesting. We have a small meeting room with a few cool stickers. The whiteboard here with plans of the Death Star's weakness, and then here at the back we have a water cooler and a mug. There's also a sticker here on a control panel of sorts. The area looks nice until I added a minifigure inside, and now it appears pretty small in comparison. Seats have been made available here so you can have a small meeting. Also note the really cool sticker of a star chart, a similar sticker featured on the other side too. And speaking of the other side, we do have another small room for meeting up and chatting, but this is a bit more lackluster here than the other room in my eyes. There's not much to do here in comparison. That star chart does still look pretty cool though. The middle room here features a couple of blasters. Removing that top roof here for a better look inside, we have a screen that details to us some targeting UI, and the stud shooters that are connected together so they move as one. I love this a lot. Moving these around has been pretty fun, even if the range isn't that great here. The top room here is the throne room scene, which is really funny to see because even in the original model idea, this thing is so downscaled compared to the scene that we have in the movie. There's not much here either, since this is where the figures are supposed to be standing and receiving their medals. You can see on the box here that it shows a pretty crammed room with a bunch of figures here, and it actually makes it a bit more appealing in my eyes. This is me here quickly showing you that yes, you can indeed fit a bunch of your minifigures in this one room. The final inclusion here is this top radar dish, which is interesting. I think the designers didn't like the idea of having this room so empty up top, so they threw this in as extra. It's not actually connected to anything, it's just sitting on these plates here. The set actually includes a couple of extras in the forms of some vehicles. We have a Y-Wing build, which is pretty small compared to what we're used to, but it is a fun little inclusion nonetheless. LEGO seem to have been really doubling down on these smaller scale designs lately in playsets, and I think people seem to like them overall now. We've kind of come a bit used to them. The Y-Wing is pretty simple. It's fun to build a proper scaled set earlier in life and then building a much smaller model with the same kind of features. I recognize a lot of the building styles here, but just shrunk down to fit with this temple build. The Y-Wing can hold a pilot and an astromech droid. The opening panel is not placed on a hinge though, which means you need to fully remove it from this build, unfortunately. I mentioned earlier that yes, in fact, it is interactive with the hangar space. The Y-Wing does fit inside quite nicely, and this ultimately sells me on the overall design. Your additional extras here come in the form of these smaller scaled things. We have a transport cart, some small steps to reach the Y-Wing cockpit, and then 2 crew lights. This transport cart thingy is pretty cool. Taking a look at the source material, it's amazing how accurate this thing looks. It's got the size right, it has the colors right, it's pretty damn good, and I'm usually not a fan of these kinds of inclusions. The cart is able to open up and reveal some extra storage inside. This is where I've been storing the crew lights. We have a driving section here for the figure to stand on, either front ways or back ways like in the source material, and then studs are up top here for the figures to be seated, just like we see in the movies. This brings us to the figures now, and first up here we have Luke Skywalker in his ceremony attire. The figure's great. I've never really adored the Yavin ceremony scene like others, but when I had these figures in hand I was sold almost immediately. I love the fact that the medals here are additional pieces and not just printed on, so you do have the option of having your figures without the medals. Double-sided expression as always with Luke Skywalker's. My one mention here was that it probably wasn't necessary to include his lightsaber since he doesn't have this during this sequence. Probably the one time I would have advised not having a lightsaber included. Next up is Han Solo, and the same compliments I gave for Luke. The medal is removable, and this Han is more of a traditional style when you remove the medal. It's a slightly different New Hope Han Solo compared to the previous modern remakes of him that we've had over the past couple of years. The neck collar is slightly different. Double-sided expression and a damn good hairpiece. He also includes a blaster, which again, probably wasn't super necessary here, but it's nice to have, I suppose. Princess Leia might be my favorite minifigure included here. Really nice dress and torso that is new with those prints. Nice to see. I want to say the rest has been seen before in other sets. I could be wrong on that though. Leia does have a double-sided expression of a more confident look. It's different from the annoyed expressions that we usually get to see from her. Back printing as well, and overall a really nice figure. Blaster included as well, in case she decides to go rogue at the ceremony. General Dodonna is the exact same variant included in an X-Wing set that released some years prior, a set that I missed, so it is cool to have him here. He's got some really nice torso details and face printing as well. He comes with a pointing stick thingy to make his speech a bit more clearer for those soldiers sitting at the back. Double-sided expression, it's only slightly different in tone, but a cool figure nonetheless. Chewbacca here is the exact same figure we've been getting for close to a decade now. In fact, it might actually be a decade at this point. I think it's the first time I'm covering him on the channel though. Chewbacca is a remake model that I actually have always been a fan of. I know it's controversial amongst some people in the community, but I imagine we've all gotten used to this design by now. He's taller than the other figures, and he does come with a bowcaster with an actual firing stud. C-3PO included is pretty nice. It's apparently a really nice version used from some diorama set or something, so the printing is better on this figure than what we usually see. However, then C-3PO received another upgrade in printing in a different set that released later on, and it's not the figure that we have here. So for a brief period of time, this was the best figure to get, and now he isn't, until they inevitably make another C-3PO with even better printing in the future. Personally, in my eyes, if you have one C-3PO, you have enough of them. Same goes for R2-D2 here. I want to say it's the same little fella included in sets for X amount of years now. It's pretty insane how many R2-D2s and 3POs I have in my collection. I want to see an R2-D2 with that special leg at some point in the future, and then I'll be pretty happy. He's always featured some really nice printing details for the dome head and torso. The best detail on this guy is the back printing, which you would think would be standard for all of the astromech droids. In comes here R2-BHD, who I learned is not a character exclusive figure here. This fella has appeared in one set before in 2018, included in a UCS Y-Wing set, and that version of the figure actually apparently had back printing. Colors don't seem to match either on this droid's body and dome-like head, which is a little frustrating since they do match in the source material. This here is Rebel pilot Garven Dreis, aka Rebel leader, never before seen and exclusive here for this set. I really do love the Rebel pilot style of the 70s, colors and helmets and overall aesthetics is really great for my personal appeal. A blaster was included here and a double-sided expression, nice figure to have to build up the army. However, things take a turn when we take a look at the next figure. This here is Rebel pilot John Dutch Vander, aka Gold Leader, who has actually appeared in multiple sets in the past with various different styles and appearances. The helmets are the biggest differences between these two pilots here. They're really nice pieces to have as always, but I am disappointed in the fact that both of these figures do use the same face print as one another. I think the hope here is that you would have one expression for one figure and the other can have the other expression, but I always really hate it when LEGO release identical figures in the same set. I would have even taken a default appearance for one of them, and I may just change that myself. Next up here we have a Rebel Crew female soldier, a really cool misc figure to have to build up that selection and make the base feel a bit more lived in, uses the same helmet as the Rebel troopers and features some generic style garbs, double-sided expression as well, and some neat accessories to kind of help out building that Y-Wing. Final figure here is the Rebel Trooper. This is the same figure that would be used in the Tantive set that released this year in 2024. I said while I was reviewing that set that I was excited because I'd never had any of the Rebel Troopers before, and now I have another one for my collection. Double-sided expression. I wish we could have maybe squeezed in just one more Rebel Trooper here or something. Also disappointing to see that these guys do not use the dual-molded legs. I imagine that's coming soon since it has been heavily requested, and no doubt the set that does finally include dual-molded legs for these guys will come at the cost of a brutal price. He also includes a really cool binoculars piece though, I really love it. The box art here is pretty cool. We've got the A New Hope strip of blue with Vader in the corner there, and then all of the figures on the front also. The back of the box here does show the set with a new display point. It looks really cool, all populated like this. We also have all of the play features covered here as seen in the video, like the crow's nest that can rise up. We then also have the features of the ceremony room and the blasters and the meeting room. The instructions for the set come in a folder as you can see here, and we have a bunch of manuals to go through. All of these are based around the separate parts of the build I showed off at the start of the video. Again, the idea behind the set is that you can build with up to 6 people at once and then combine everything together to make one complete set. Really, I guess the 8-year-old rating is for these individual parts, not necessarily the complete ensemble. The first instruction booklet here is the Y-Wing, inside is the basic instruction booklet you're used to, and then at the back we have an image from the movie which I've never seen in a LEGO Star Wars playset before, and some advertisements for these interesting sets. It's just the mix, and that's it. The next booklet here is the control room, and we're going to do this all rapid fire from here on. The back of the booklet here shows a new image from the movie, and then we have some playsets here for the advertising. I realized while I was looking at this image here, I don't own anything advertised here. It's all too expensive or not interesting. Next, the main stage area. At the back, a different image from the movie. Starting to really like these inclusions, and more advertisements. Yoda Starfighter and the 2 battle packs that are actually still available on shelves. Second control room now. Back of the booklet shows us an image from the movie, and that's all that's really interesting in here. The second to last booklet here, this is the ceremony room. The back of the booklet has a perfect image to showcase the set, and you also see my empty sticker sheet there and an ad for LEGO. Final booklet, the weakest section to build honestly if you are building this with a group, crow's nest image, and that's it for the instructions. Good lord. Overall, yes, the set could be better. It does have its issues in the sense that it is a very high price point for a LEGO Star Wars playset before we reach that you see as adult series scale. The builds do feel flimsy for that price as well. They feel really junior-like and not very satisfying for that kind of experience. However, I do still like this thing quite a bit. I'm a sucker for this type of a design. I mentioned at the start of the video, I really love the location of Yavin, especially from the video games, and temple-like LEGO builds is my jam, so this was always something that appealed to me. I also think that for that value of price to minifigures, the amount here is pretty substantial and something to really win people over. Sometimes the quantity of figures in one set equals the quality of figures in a different set, where I think the 5 minifigure selection in other sets may have nicer details and selections compared to this one. I gotta say, it feels pretty good to have a LEGO Star Wars set with a bunch of named main characters, soldiers for army building, secondary world building characters, and some droids to add all to the mix. It looks pretty good on my shelf. It could be a better set with some additions and some changes, but overall, I am happy with how this one turned out. If you enjoyed this review of a LEGO Star Wars set, liking this video and subscribing to the channel does help to support more videos like this one in the future. Ka kite anō, thank you very much for watching everyone, and I will see you all next time.